Hey, are you worried about recession, inflation, all of those things? Today, we're going to talk about how you can recession proof your life. And I'm glad that you're here with me because we're going to jump right in. I'm going to show you an image right this second and see, does this make you a little bit nervous? Let's take a look. See, oh, yeah. Can you see the number on that? I'll tell you what it was. Let me find it right here because this was on my recent trip cross country in the mobile office all the way to Florida. And this was running. The pump was, it's a horrible, dirty looking picture because it's actually a truck stop and there's nothing glamorous about truck stops, but it was running up to $380.79 and still running when I stopped the video. Now, when we cross country, we do this every single day for 5 or 6 days in a row. That's the kind of fuel consumption that it takes to get all the way there in the mobile office. And then we did it all in reverse coming back. Now, how do you make this? Maybe this makes you kind of break out in the sweat of, that kind of a thing. But what I want to emphasize here is there's a way to insulate yourself from this for your own personal life of what you're doing in your business and in your life. And it is what I call recession proofing your life. And I'm going to draw on the great, I have a couple notes so I don't forget anything today, but Warren Buffett, right? I think he's like the 5th wealthiest investor in the world. He's 91 years old and he does his annual report every year. And one of the things he said, as when someone asked him, well, how do we recession proof ourselves? How do we deal with inflation? He said, be exceptionally good at something. Right from the words of one of the wealthiest people in the world, be exceptionally good at something. So what do we mean by that? It means acquire a skill that other people will invest in you with, and that they are still willing to take some of their resources to invest in you with the skill that you have. And of course, what today we're going to talk about, one of those skills, the one I recommend because it's the most valuable skill, in my opinion, in marketing. It's the most valuable skill you could acquire. And it's this. It's copywriting. Copywriting is the process of writing the words that attract, persuade, educate, engage, and empower every aspect of selling a product, concept, or idea. And another word I would add to that is repel. You actually also don't want certain people in your programs or your services. And so your copy should also do all of that. But that's what copywriting is. It's a particular style of writing. Now, the reason I say that acquiring a skill, and maybe you have other skills that you have, but the thing is, this is a skill that you can acquire pretty darn fast, right? You can get good enough. And one of the things Warren Buffett says is be exceptionally good. And so you can get good and then move on to exceptionally. So I have my own personal story about how this works, because when I did some research on this topic of what happens during recessions, depressions, all of these things, the Great Depression in the 30s, did you know this? I didn't know this until I did some research on this. A couple of the services that did exceptionally well all the way through a 10-year depression were radio ads and written ads, like newspaper ads. They still did well all the way through that recession, that depression. Why was that? Because there's still services needed. There are still things that people need to be able to do no matter what's happening with the economy. And when you're in marketing as a copywriter, especially, you can help do that. You help deliver what people need to be able to still acquire what they need. And even though that may shift and change, just as it did during the past couple of years, just as it did during the Great Depression. And so those companies that understood to focus on what was possible, to focus on as if things would get better because they knew that they would eventually, they're the ones that survived. They're the ones that still had a business when we came out the other end of these difficult times. Now, my personal story about this, if you're not familiar with me, I came online in 2004 with no previous experience. I don't have a college degree, didn't have any special training, had never written for anyone at all, unless you count writing a memo or a letter in an office. That's the only kind of writing I'd ever done that I'd gotten paid anything for, and it wasn't being paid very much, just as an office worker. And I decided, after reading an article about copywriting with a W, the act of writing the words, that I was going to do it, that I was going to learn how to do it. And so that's what I did. And I went at it as if I could not fail, even though I didn't know what I was doing. And I wasn't very good at first, and I didn't charge very much at first, but I immediately began laying the groundwork, for something that became life-changing, not only for me, but for the thousands of other people I've taught this to and my clients, who many have become multimillionaires, multimillionaires because of the copy. So my first real experience with, okay, there's a real economic downturn going on for me personally, while I was in business, was in 2008, 2009. And you may be, many of you may remember that time period, because it was a time of people losing their homes. There was a mortgage crisis, banking crisis, lots of things going on that lasted into 2009. And actually, Warren Buffett was asked at that time, what can we do to insulate ourselves against these kinds of circumstances? And he said at that, get exceptionally good at something. And so what I was getting exceptionally good at was writing copy and understanding the marketing strategy. And at the time, we had a home in Mexico, we had a home in Arizona, we had another mobile office that we used to travel in and I would work from. And so we were, I just remember it so clearly, we were living in Mexico at the time, and I had my office there looking out at a garden, and there was a cook downstairs fixing our meals. And, we just had a lovely lifestyle there. And I was so busy writing copy. And for a while after that, some years after that time of 2008, 2009, because I was doing exceptionally well, I kind of felt like I should apologize. But I said, well, I wasn't really paying that much attention to what was happening with the banking crisis and what all was on the news. I really wasn't paying that much attention. And I kind of felt like I had to apologize. I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention, that kind of thing. And then I realized, like, what? It was like an epiphany, kind of that, 2x4 to the head moment, where I thought, you know what? The reason I still had such a thriving business was because exactly that, because I chose not to pay attention to all the bad news and the difficult things that were going on. It's not to say difficult things aren't really happening. Obviously, they're all over the place, right? But we do choose what we focus on. We choose where we put our attention, and our intention follows our attention. And we can choose to say, this is it's actually something in business that's like the uncertainty versus risk. It's actually a business term, right? And so when you're approaching during a time where things are more expensive and prices are going up, there's still money in circulation. There's still the energy of money. There's still marketers and entrepreneurs that need the copy, right? And so they need copywriters to write the copy for them. This is what I experienced in 2008, 2009, because of the shifting of the markets and shifting of the economies, that marketers and entrepreneurs, business owners needed other kinds of marketing copy. They needed other kinds of messaging. They were the ones that I was working with were acting as if everything was going to be fine. They didn't know when. They accepted that the risk of that uncertainty. So going forward with the uncertainty means, well, we don't know exactly when this is going to end. So many things right now, right? We don't know exactly how it's going to resolve, but we're going to go with that uncertainty. And the risk is we're investing in ourselves and investing in what we do and putting it out there in the world because we have a certainty about eventual outcomes and that it will all be worth it. That it will be worth it financially. And it can be worth it financially right when you're in the middle of it, right? And so that's what was happening for me, that I had all these marketers knocking at the door, and say, hey, I need copy. And I was writing new copy, email sequences, landing pages, video scripts, launch funnels. All of those things were happening because they needed more copy. And it's happening now as well. There are so many people. I mean, if you just ClickFunnels, for example, there's something like over 100,000 people that are in ClickFunnels, right? When Funnel Hacking Live happens in September this year, there'll be at least 5,000 people at it that all are using or need to have funnels. What does that mean for a copywriter? It means this is what I call furnishing the house. They're building a funnel. It's empty rooms without the copy. They need the marketing message. They need the aligned marketing message. They need it to work for them, for their business, and they need someone to write it. So when you have get exceptionally good at a skill, and in this case, we can talk copywriting, then you also automatically create a service that is of high value to the people that need it. And that goes on even during these times, maybe even more so during these times. I was having, very high revenue months, let's just put it that way, all during 2008, 2009. And then till I finally realized, by choosing my focus, and this is what I encourage you to do, choose what you are going to focus on. Choose on what you desire to have occur in your life, what you desire to have happen in your business, not on what you are worried about or what you do not desire to have, because it's the way our brains work. There's actually a brain science to this, is that our brains work, our reticular activating system works to align our outer dimensions, our outer experience with our inner world, and what's happening there. And so it's just the way the brain works, right? Without going into the whole thing of neuroscience right now, that you're creating the emotion and the intention on what you desire to have in your life, what you desire to focus on. And that helps your brain say, okay, let's deliver more of that. Let's deliver more of that. So when we talk about manifesting, I call it the sacred science of manifesting, because we were designed this way. Our brains were designed to work this way. They're malleable. They're changeable. We can create new neural pathways. And the way we create those new neural pathways is by thinking in a certain way and choosing what we focus on, so that our brain says, that was important, more of that, please. And that's what you're creating for yourself by choosing your focus. So if you're focusing on the opportunities that are there for you, the opportunities to engage with other marketers or entrepreneurs that might need your services. And maybe you're not a copywriter, maybe you're a funnel builder, maybe you do design, maybe you're a graphic designer, maybe you're the tech person. All of these things work in conjunction to create that really robust system that we call a marketing funnel, where the entrepreneurs and business owners are able to build and expand their business. Now, the other thing that is always part of my messaging that I would love to share with you today is that it's never too late. It is never too late. And that's one of the things I love about copywriting. I was already past 50 when I started with no experience whatsoever. I've told the story many times of the first time I wrote for a big product launch. We literally had Jeff Walker's product launch formula program. It was Mind Movies. And if you've heard of Mind Movies, they've become a multi-million-dollar company. We did the first launches together, with learning it together. And it was kind of like the 3 steps ahead, page 7 says, this is the part where we need these kinds of emails. And we literally did the launch that way. And our very first one did close to $1 million, right? In a week's time. This is when doing $1 million in a week was still a big deal. And when you think about how many people are doing that now, even in a day, right? But that we were just getting started, all of us, the Mind Movies team and I, working on this together. And it was good enough. It was good enough to be able to start creating a very, really successful business for them, the foundation for it. We went on to do many other launches that did multiple millions of dollars. And so acquiring the skills and then growing with them. Now, one of the things I love about copywriting, and oh, by the way, the age thing, I found this fascinating statistic today about Warren Buffett. Did you know, and we're talking, of course, huge mega billions of dollars, but he made 90% of his wealth was made after he was 65. He's 91 now. He didn't get 90%. 90% of his wealth was after 65. I just, you hear the stories about Kentucky Fried Chicken and, all kinds of entrepreneurs didn't start until later in life. And I'm an entrepreneur that got started later in life. But I just thought that was like a fantastic statistic to know. 90% of his wealth after 65. Okay, so why not for anyone else to be able to do that as well? He's not Superman. I mean, he may seem like it, but and he's the Oracle of Omaha and all of that. But one of the other things he said was that, when we learn a skill, we acquire the skill, it's not taxable. We're not paying a tax to anybody for the skill. We can acquire some of these skills at relatively modest investment when you consider what the investment is for a brick and mortar business or many, many years of college education. I was looking up just the average earnings, for example, because he also says, physicians, lawyers, people like this that have a particular set of skills that continue to be needed no matter what's going on, right? So just based on that, I was looking up the average income for a physician in 2022, and I wrote it down, is $339,000, right? But guess what? The average number of hours they work is anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week, all the way up to 25% of physicians work up to 80 hours a week. Now, I promise you, unless you're a complete diehard entrepreneur that has that DNA that says I'm up at 2 a.m. and I never stop, that's not me, okay? But you don't have to work like that to make doctor level revenue from learning the skill of copywriting. How do I know? Because I've done it. I continue to do it. I've surpassed that, right? 17 years old on my own, no college, right? The other one I looked up was attorneys. And I was actually very surprised to see the average revenue, and I think it was in New York State because they broke it down by state, for an attorney was only in about the $94,494 to be exact. And their hours also were anywhere from 49.6 to 80 hours a week. And again, how many years of school, what level of education, how much money, how many student loans? Well, if you acquire a skill that you can acquire for way less than even 1 year of going to a college. And I'm all about education. My son's a Rhodes Scholar. Both my kids went to school on full tuition scholarships to excellent private educational systems, all of that. I'm a proponent of education. I'm an ongoing learner myself, just not in a traditional college setting, right? And so if you can learn a skill and acquire that skill as quickly as possible so that you can start doing it and to be good enough to start doing that and helping someone else with their business and serving them in a way that increases the quality of their life and then impacts the people they serve. What an honor. What an honor. And even responsibility that is. Now, and I'm looking forward to seeing your comments. I see lots of comments coming in. I haven't even looked away to see what they are yet, but be sure that you, if you're enjoying this and learning something from it, be sure you smash that button. Let's go right here. Be sure you hit subscribe, because I'm going to start doing these every Tuesday. Smash the like button, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. I'll be taking a quick look at the comments today as well. But this learning the skill and staying 3 steps ahead, this is how you insulate yourself from recession. This is how you insulate, recession-proof your life by having a skill that stays in demand no matter what. Since I started online, which has now been about 18 years. So, I mean, I'm not speaking from some position of, I started like a year ago, or I started 2 years ago, and now I'm teaching everybody this. I've been at this a long time, right? I mean, I've ridden in a limousine with Frank Kern, right? Going to a launch party. I know a lot of the original folks online, and it's been such an honor to learn from them, to work with them, to be mentored by some of them. And one of my mentors now always says, find the person who's successfully doing the thing that you want to accomplish, pay them whatever it takes to have them be your mentor, and do everything they tell you to do. And this is Myron Golden. He's one of my mentors and my business coach. And he's absolutely right, because it is easier to make a lot of money in a short period of time than it is to make a little tiny amount of money over a long period of time. So how many years did it take you? 40 years to make $1 million, right? And what price have you paid life during that time of it taking so long? Or maybe you have, you're crushed by student loans because it took you, 15 years of education only to get to the point where maybe you're making the revenue of a really successful entrepreneur, right? Who didn't have to go through that meat grinder of what it took to get that education. So I just think that this is such an enduring thing to keep in mind. And so just looking at a couple notes for myself that I wanted to remember to tell you, that one of the resources that we can't buy or get back is time. Time is always more valuable than the money, right? I mean, and so if you can compress time with what you're doing in your business so that you're not working 80 hours a week, so that you're not in school for 15 years to get ready to do the thing you were getting ready to do, but you're able to learn something in a relatively short amount of time that you can, and then be willing to put yourself out there, do the work. I'm not saying it's easy all the time. It's not easy all the time, but it is worth it if you do this and literally give yourself time in your life, lifestyle freedom, to be able to work from wherever you want, to be able to travel across country and work from the place that you travel to, if you choose to do so, to go outside the country. I've done all of that. I worked from Canada. I worked from Mexico. I worked from every state in the United States, pretty much, except Alaska and Hawaii, I believe, and always been able to make a great deal of revenue from wherever I am, because I learned the skill and I got good at, and maybe even now exceptionally good at, copywriting, right? And understanding how writing the marketing messages, aligning a message for your clients, changes their life. And that messaging, when it works and they have something of value, it changes the lives of those they serve. I call this 3 levels of impact. That's what we can have by getting exceptionally good, learning the skill, wrapping ourselves in that insulation of no matter what, my skill is in demand, and positioning from a place of value. So when we talk about making the bigger money in a shorter period of time, you don't need 100 clients to have an excellent online business as a freelance copywriter. And I want to emphasize freelance copywriter. I'm not talking about applying for a job, working for an agency. You're absolutely free to do that if that's what appeals to you. But in that setting, that's when you're going to get asked, where's your degree from? How many years of experience do you have? Do you have 5 years of copywriting experience and a degree in marketing? You don't have to do any of those things as a freelancer. You are able to just step into learning the skill, and you do have a responsibility to get good at that skill, to learn it, to be in programs or masterminds, mentorship that helps you get good faster, right? So that you can deliver the value to your clients. Obviously, you need to be able to deliver the value and position from that place of value. So when you do that, you don't need 100 clients a year. If you're selling something, a service or a program or something, or you're trying really hard and it's like you're charging $500 for it, how many, just do the math. And let's just say you want to make 6 figures. You want to make the vaunted 6 figures a year, $100,000, and you reverse engineer that. I should have had a flip chart, but how many of those do you need? How many clients do you need to do that if you're only charging $500 or $1,000? On the other hand, if you get to the point of a $10,000 or $15,000 fee, how many clients do you need to do that? So, and again, I'm not making income promises or anything like that. I'm just saying what is possible based on my own experience and what an average copywriting fee is that is not too difficult to achieve when you're in the right group of people, when you're talking to the right people as far as your outreach to your audience, so that you attract, chasing, but attracting. And you do that by showing up consistently, giving value, having those conversations, joining groups where you can add value, not spamming anybody, going to events. Hey, if you want to write for funnels, where should you be in September? Funnel Hacking Live in Orlando, right? And it's not an affiliate. I don't get paid anything for saying that. I'm just saying, if you're in a room with 5,000 people who all need a funnel and you want to write a marketing copy for people that have funnels, might be a good idea. That's exactly how I really got going with my business, was to go to a marketing event in New York City when I was only about 5 months into my copywriting journey. One of my mentors and friends now is Gary Bensavenga. And though he's retired from writing copy for clients, at the time he was having his retirement party, the only live event he'd ever done. It was called the Bensavenga 100. He was doing it at the St. Regis Hotel in New York City. At the time, the rooms were something like between $500 and $700 a night. Each floor had a concierge. You could call for any assistance that you might need. Really first class all the way. I'd never stayed in a hotel like that at that point in my life. And I decided I was going to go to this, because I already been hearing the buzz of there are going to be A-list copywriters and Boardroom and Agora and people who are really in very successful arenas with their marketing. We're going to go because they all were like, oh my gosh, Gary Bensavenga, he's having an event. And so I decided, well, I need to be there because I'm going to network with some of those people and I'm going to learn from Gary. Now, at the time, his event was $5,000. And that was in 2005. It was only 2 days long. You had to get to New York City. I was just getting started. My first copywriting project was something like $250 because I was just getting started, and I didn't really know. And I just threw myself out there and said, I'm going to begin. Didn't have a website yet, any of that. But Gary also didn't take credit cards. I don't think at the time I even had a credit card with a $5,000 limit because we didn't have any money. But I made a decision with certainty that I was going to be there. And so I had little Post-it notes. I started working on my thinking about this as if it already had happened. I just envisioned myself doing this. And I raised those puny little rates because I was starting to work with a few people. I started raising the rate and I set my intention. I focused on the thing I desired to achieve, which was to be in the room with Gary Bensavenga because of that proximity. And I achieved it because he didn't take credit cards. I had to write a check for $5,000 to book my seat at that event. And when I got there, my husband Ron was with me. My husband's legally blind. He had his guide dog Rusty on the harness. And as soon he just went into the lobby of the hotel with me just to kind of look around. He wasn't going to the event because we didn't have $10,000. I had $5,000, right, for me. And as soon as Gary saw me with Ron, he was like, is this your husband? And how do you do? Nice to meet you. And he said, would you like to attend this event with your wife? And he invited my husband to the entire event. And the meals were first class, linen napkins and the service people with the towel over the arm and real silver, and it looked like the Sistine Chapel in the dining room, beautiful flower arrangements. I mean, it was a gorgeous, gorgeous, really just first class all the way, including the training. And so what I did at that event was I networked. And that was by going up to people and saying, hey, where are you from? How are you doing? Tell me about what you do online. And just even with my preliminary beginning knowledge of online marketing, being able to give share some thoughts with them if something might be helpful, or have you considered this, or I understand what your message is. It sounds like this, and just having that kind of conversation. And people, guess what happened? They wanted to book my services as a copywriter because of the conversations we were having. I met Gary Halbert, the great late Gary Halbert, the Prince of Print. And because I'd taken something he did as a dollar letter, basically attaching a dollar bill to a very short letter. I'd taken the concept and I'd written it for one of my first clients, who brought in with that 2-page letter. It was a direct mail. He brought in $4 million in 30 days in signed contracts. It's a whole big story around that. I'll tell another time. But he made $1 million profit in 30 days. Kind of scared the bejeebers out of him, actually. But I took a copy of that letter. I didn't even have a website yet. Went up to Gary Halbert. Instead of saying, hey, can I take your photo with you? I said, hey, can I thank you for this concept and show you what happened when I did this? So he was standing with John Carlton, another well-known copywriter, and I didn't know either one of them. And I'm standing there, this little housewifey woman from Arizona, right, in New York City. I think it was one of my first trips to New York City. And I read the letter. He looked at me. He looked at John Carlton, and he said, hey, read this. And John Carlton read the letter, and he looked at Gary Halbert. And they both looked at me, and they said, you should license this. And I was like, I don't know what that means. They both just kind of laughed because I had no idea. But what happened was Gary Halbert said, I'm doing an event in Miami. And it was like, I think in a couple months, 6 weeks, something like that. And he said, I would love to give a copy of this letter to my attendees as a bonus. Would that be okay with you? And would you please come to my event as my guest? I was just getting started. I didn't even have a website. I literally went with a sheet of paper that I wrote kind of like a bio that I could hand to people because I didn't have a website. So I literally had a 1-page, here, this is what I do, this is who I am, right? And just kind of that I put together kind of a little marketing message about what I did. And well, anyway, I just looked at Gary Halbert and said, yes, yes. Didn't know how, didn't know exactly what that was going to mean, but away I went to that event, got introduced, met everybody at this event. They received a piece of my copy as a gift from Gary Halbert, and I got my next clients. And this is how I started building my business. And so I had to have certainty about becoming the person who could do the thing of writing the copy in such a way that I would have the results for them and for me, and life-changing results as far as being paid to actually write these things and then having it work for the client so they also gain value from it. So I just want to tell you how true it is that when you have the certainty, when you are willing to acquire a skill and get good enough that you can start marketing yourself early on, and you can do it by networking. I didn't have a website. I think I had a business card. I'm not even sure I had that at that event. And just own that positioning for yourself right from the beginning. I often tell people in my programs, the worst client you will ever have, guaranteed, absolute biggest pain in the posterior ever, is yourself. You will be your worst client ever. You will have the most resistance. You will have the most reasons why you can't do the thing, the reasons why you'll put off writing the copy. Ask me how I know this for your website, because you don't want to, talk about myself in this way, that what do I say? And I'm just getting started and all these things. And so you'll find a million reasons to deflect, because one of the things that happens when you're going through, and it's just also kind of a brain thing, it's a spiritual thing, that when you're going through a big transition in your life, then what comes next? The static, the resistance, the pushback, the disruption. You should expect that. You should expect to have times where you're crying over your copy. Expect to have times you think, I have no words left. Expect to have the times where you think, I don't know if I can talk to this person or not. What do I have to offer them? You should expect that those kind of old stories, old ways of thinking, old habits of thought about who you are, who your identity is, how you've always seen yourself in the past, is going to start getting in the way and trying to disrupt where you're going. It's your brain's way of trying to protect you from rocking the boat and having things change, because your brain, that part of your brain says, we need to stay safe. We need to stay with exactly the predictable thing we've always done and not rock this boat too much. And so those old stories, the old limitations, and sometimes we will defend to the end our limitations, right? It's a weird thing we do as humans on Earth, is that we tend to fall back into those old fallback positions of, that's the way I've always been. How can I be something different? That's a whole other story for another time on our sharing of time here together on YouTube. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Let me just wrap up. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss a moment here of the key points. What are they? Marketers need copy during recessions, during inflation. Business owners need the copy. You can focus on the low-hanging fruit. I didn't even mention yet, but email writing, for example, is a very really easier way, let's say an easier way to get started with your copywriting journey, by writing emails for clients. Everybody needs email sequences, endless email sequences. So that's another place that you can focus your attention. But speaking of focusing your attention, get the skills you need, acquire the skills you need to become good at something. And in my case, of course, I recommend copywriting because it's the core for everything. It's why I say it's the most important skill. Anything that you're doing, anything that you're marketing or writing, whether it's for yourself or for your clients, it all takes the words and the messaging. And that's why it's most important, because you don't have a video, you don't have emails, you don't have a sales letter, you don't have a funnel if you don't have the words, the copy. And that's why it's such an essential skill. And then, of course, focus on what it is you desire to achieve and have experience in your life, instead of, I'm going to watch all the news. I'm watching all the bad news. Oh, look how bad it is. Okay, that's it. We're done. Everything's really awful. Instead, focus on, their marketers need copy. Businesses need to keep going. Money needs to keep in circulation. On the news the other night, it said that some of the low-end stores like Walmart and Kohl's are seeing a decline in sales. And guess who's seeing an upsurge of sales? Higher-end stores like Macy's and Nordstrom, they are seeing an uptick, because there's still money in circulation and there's still people willing to put it in circulation, and they can put it in circulation with you when you are a copywriter or someone with a skill that business or entrepreneur needs. And so I hope this has been helpful today. I see I've got 45 comments going here. If you'd like to learn more about how you can start changing your thinking about what you do in your marketing and how you approach, be sure you comment here if you're watching this on replay. I would love it if you would subscribe, because I'm going to come in here every Tuesday. I'm going to do lives in here and send in your questions. Find your pathway to me. Love to hear from you of what you would like me to talk about. I'll be doing this every Tuesday live. I don't even know how long I've been on. Half an hour, it looks like. I was thinking, I hope, I would like to speak for 12 or 15 minutes. Well, here we are at 30 minutes, right? And so I just appreciate so much you being here. You can check out cashflowcopywritingchallenge.com if you'd like to see what it's like to learn how to put more power behind your words and the mindset shift that goes with that, and what this whole funnel thing is about anyway. What the heck is a marketing funnel and how does that work? And let me just take a quick look here and see what we've got in comments. See if I've got, whoops, here we go. My last copywriting job. I'm looking at just looks like we've got lots of folks showing up. I really appreciate you being here. A little shout out to those of you I can see your names: Patricia, Dr. Keisha, Brenda, Angela, Pat, Julie. Oh, so many people that I love seeing you here. Thanks so much for your support. And I think that's Judas. It's always over. I love that right there. Yes, that kind of is a deal that I tend to do. And Jenny's agreeing that that's always what happens. And Julie says she's already penciling in every Tuesday. Becky's saying thanks so much. Oh, I just love this. And Dr. Marlene is here. Dr. Marlene told me she's 16 times her revenue for when she first started. And she's a doctor. She's got a PhD, and she has 16 times her revenue and over the past couple of years. And so, not a bad way to go. And this is how you can insulate yourself from all of these things, right? And create that value for those you serve. Thanks so much again for being here today. This was actually really fun. Love doing this. I hope that you have written down a couple of notes. And remember, Warren Buffett says it's got to be good. Remember, you cannot tax. You're not going to pay a tax on that. And your skill goes with you no matter what. I've heard marketers like Frank Kern say, And he did have to start over way back in the day. He got hammered and by an alphabet agency and had to start over. But I've heard so many say, if I had a tablet and a pen, I'm back in business, because they can write copy, right? And I remember saying to my husband, the only reason this would ever not work is if I chose for it not to, if I focused on that instead of I focused on growing. And at this point, I've been seriously called by what I call my ultimate business partner. I believe in a divine connection and that influence in your business and how you connect to a divine source. For me, that is God. And I literally got called to this of teaching this to others, helping other people have that light bulb go off of, I can do this no matter where I am in life, no matter what my past experience has been. And believe me, I've been through the ringer in my own life, of homeless in my 40s, all of it. And you can choose the life that you're going to continue to have. You can choose for this to be the best part of your life. The things that have happened to you, you can choose to see as happening for you, that's been preparing the way. And so when you feel that pull, when you feel that conviction that there's something more that you're meant to do, something more besides the 9-to-5 cubicle or whatever you may have been doing, and you feel there is something more you're meant to do, listen to that, follow that, act on that, focus on that, and insulate your life for yourself and your family and those you serve. Build in that recession-proof armor and that you have, that is led by divine source. And you can also experience something really remarkable happening both in your life and for those you serve. Thanks again for being here today. I look forward to your comments ongoing, and I will see you again next time. I'm going to be here live every Tuesday doing our Triumph and Thrive Tuesdays, tea and tea with Tina on Tuesdays. And if you want to drink some tea while you're doing that, we'll spill the tea too. We can do a whole bunch of things with tea. And I will talk to you again very soon. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you again soon.